Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. A lot of baseball talk in the first hour. LSU and Little Rock were supposed to get underway 3 minutes ago. They have not. Tarp is on the field at the box. They are delayed. We'll let you know if we get any word. No start time officially has been announced. A man who has sat through a rain delay or two at Alec Box Stadium. In his old days on the beat, Luke Johnson, now covering the New Orleans Saints, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Do you miss just hammering chili dogs during rain delays?
Well, look, I was about to say you're giving me PTSD, and then you brought up the chili dogs, and now it's just a fond memory, you know.
The man had a running Twitter count of chili dogs on Twitter.
Yeah, the chili dog counter. I think it was the great chili dog counter of 2017, if I remember right. I housed I think like 56 or 60 of them in during the home games that season.
Did you bring that to your cardiologist's attention, or did you just let that one slide?
Oh well, I would have if I've ever gone to a cardiologist, but like my wife, who at that point we'd been married for a year, she was like, "You better friggin' never do this again," because it was like, you know, I mean, it was like what I was known for, which is like the dumbest thing, just like housing chili dogs. And she's just like, you're going to kill yourself doing this. And then I went to Omaha that year and I ate a 18-inch calzone on a Facebook Live feed. Yeah, not a good year for my body.
Yeah, but a great year for your career, and it's parlayed you into the National Football League. So let's talk a little bit about that. The Saints OTAs have been up and running the last few days, and obviously the stories have been around Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. I'll kind of leave it open-ended. Anything stand out between those two through a week?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's like not really like a lot of like really important takeaways we can have right now. Like it's not really super competitive stuff that they're doing. Like the only like quasi-competitive thing they're doing is 7-on-7, and there's like no Tyrann Mathieu out there. Quincy Riley, their rookie corner, has not participated yet. Like, and there's no pass rush. So like, you can't really look at this and say, but like, wow, this is what it's going to be. But you can take some like individual things away from it. And like, the book on Tyler Shough coming out was that he had a great arm, like one of the best arms in this draft class. And that has like totally showed up in these OTA practices. He made 4 throws yesterday that were just like spectacular. He had 2 bombs. Drew a lot of eyeballs, but I think the better ones were he made this great layered throw. His tight end was doing like kind of a deep over from the left to the right side, and he like perfectly put it in between the linebacker and the safety, who were kind of converging on the player. Like great touch with zip on the throw. It was really impressive. And then I think his best throw of the day, he was like moving to his left, resetting himself and making an off-platform throw, like 20 yards downfield to somebody who was in pretty tight coverage, and he put it like in the perfect spot, like where the receiver can make a play on it. He didn't make the play, but it's like that type of stuff that kind of gets you excited. Will he continue to do this when he has a 270-pound edge rusher screaming in his face? Like, who knows? But it's like really encouraging to see that stuff. And I think Spencer Rattler's been pretty good too. But like, again, like all this stuff has such a dramatic potential to change by the time September rolls around.
No doubt. Do you think I don't know if y'all have talked to Spencer Rattler or not in the last week, but do you think there's a different attitude for him with Derek Carr not being there, feeling like there's a chance for him to propel his career? Or do you think he feels like, well, they drafted this guy in the second round, they're probably gonna give him an advantage here?
He is such and I'm saying this in a good way, it might sound bad, but like he's like an irrationally confident person. I think he understood coming into last year that there wasn't really like a realistic chance that he was going to like beat out Derek Carr to be the starting quarterback. But like he definitely came in to the league being like, I can do this. And I don't think that's changed. And I don't think adding Tyler Shuck to the mix is like a problem for him or something that's going to be hard for him to overcome. Like he's somebody who very much believes in himself. So I think his attitude has been the right one. He's just like, I don't care. I bring whoever else in here. I'm going to go compete with them. And I believe in myself and my ability to go do it. Like, we'll see if he can do it. I think he's definitely got an uphill battle. Like, there's a new coaching staff that already has invested in the other guy. And that definitely gives him a leg up. But like, I don't think that stuff is bothering Spencer Rattler.
How much more fun is training camp going to be from that perspective, watching that, and then even preseason games, which are kind of a malaise for the most part. But these two guys theoretically should be duking it out a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to be a lot more fun just from the standpoint of I'm not going to have everybody in my ear telling me how much they hate Derek Carr. like we're past that now, baby. I'm so excited for that. It's going to be good, man. Like I think it's going to be a way better version of a couple years ago when they had Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, in a quarterback camp battle, where everybody was just like, I mean, it's going to be Jameis, right? It was like a competition in name only. Like this, I think is really legitimate. Like they want to see who's going to be their guy. And while I think people do feel that Shuck does have the leg up, like I don't think it's at all like a foregone conclusion that he's going to be their starter. So it's going to make training camp practices interesting. It's going to make preseason games interesting. It's going to make them matter more. Even if like we're talking about a quarterback who is going to be leading a team who wins 4 games this year, like that stuff is still, it's still like, this is potentially your future at the position. So like I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's a completely different perspective. We're chatting with Luke Johnson at @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter, where you can find all of his coverage of the Black and Gold. He's with us on Fridays. If I made you, here's a hypothetical, I made you wager injury-free, everybody's healthy the whole season, do you think the Saints have one starting quarterback for 17 games or more than one starting quarterback?
I'm going to say one. And I'm going to say it's going to be Shuck.
Yeah.
I feel like just the investment, the new staff, like that stuff does matter. And on top of that, like I really like what I've seen from Shuck so far. Like he's prototype size. He's like I mentioned earlier, he's got like a great arm. And he's got like a lot of maturity for a rookie. Which a lot of people are using it to his detriment, but I think that'll help him like ease into the NFL a little bit faster than some of the other guys in this class. So like I feel like it's going to be him from the jump, and I would be really like, unless it was just a disaster, I'd be surprised if they pulled him to see what they have in Rattler.
How big a deal is Jake Hayner's injury for Jake Hayner?
I don't really think it is. Like, he has been mentioned and named by Kellen Moore as somebody who is part of this competition, but it really doesn't feel that way. And maybe that's just like us unfairly glossing over his opportunity here. But he's got a lot working against him beyond this injury, right? Like he's the smallest guy in the quarterback room. He's really the least athletic guy in the quarterback room. And when he's been on the field, it hasn't looked good. Like you can see it with Rattler when he's been on the field. It hasn't translated the same way into the game, so the way it has in practice for Jake Hayner. So like this injury is a setback. Like he's not able to get reps in these OTAs. But like I think this is like such a point of the season where it's really more about like the mental reps, anyways. I think he's still getting those. So he's going to be able to step right in and compete in the exact same way that he would have been had he been like taking the actual physical reps during OTAs. I just don't think it's going to matter.
Anything from the new guys, whether it's a free agent here or there, the draft class, undrafted free agency, that has caught your eye for a notebook or something?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting that they've been using Vernon Broughton as basically the 3-4 defensive end. He was a guy who played primarily a 3-technique defensive tackle at Texas, and they saw him as a guy who could move around, and he probably will. We'll probably see him move inside on some sub packages, but primarily he's going to be a defensive end for them, which is really interesting. Outside of that, I think Kelvin Banks looks like legit. As much as we're able to see from offensive line right now, he's a big guy who moves really well. And I think Justin Reed's going to be a really good player for this team. I was kind of a little down on that signing when they made it. I just felt a little rich, but I think he's going to be really, really good. I think he's going to bring an element to that secondary they're missing.
Have a great weekend, Luke. We appreciate you being flexible with us today, and we'll talk next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Go Tigers, man.
Absolutely. Luke Johnson of The Advocate, covering the New Orleans Saints, a Reveille alum, LSU grad. He'll be watching the Tigers this weekend out there at the box, whatever that is, they get started. And if we get any information over the next 45 minutes, we'll be sure to pass that along with LSU and Little Rock in a delay as of right now. Hopefully cranking things up 5, 6 o'clock. That's going to put the 2-3 game at real late this evening in Baton Rouge. We'll see how that all shakes out. When we come back, we'll talk some LSU football, specifically some recruiting. Tigers just got a commitment. We'll tell you about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. When I bought my first house, I didn't really consider closet space all that much. Turns out it's pretty important. So when my wife-to-be, who's now my wife, moved in, she looked around and goes, where am I supposed to put all my stuff? I was like, well, we'll figure it out. So we had coats in the hallway closet, stuff up in the attic, stuff in the guest room. It just wasn't a good situation for us closet-wise. You don't have to move to transform your closet situation. We did. We needed more space. Another kid on the way. We moved, and we now have more closet space, and it's great. You don't have to move. Just call One Bath and Closets. David Duvall can come in and absolutely redesign your entire closet. Customized to you. How many suits you got, how many shoes you got. He'll let you fill out a questionnaire, and then he'll customize a closet. It's going to function great, customized to you, and it's going to look fantastic as well. Promise you this, David Duvall and his team will do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. You can find all their great work as well as satisfied reviews at OneBathAndClosets.com. It's One Bath and Closets, OneBathAndClosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Talk a little LSU football as we do on Fridays. Preston Guy always joins us at 1:15. I thought LSU would start playing baseball at 2 o'clock, so we're not going to talk baseball in the second hour. I figured it would be a good time to talk football. Well, LSU didn't start at 2 o'clock. They're in a rain delay, but we can still talk football. Preston Guy from Tiger Bait joins us on the Jim's Firearms hotline. Preston, how we doing?
Hunt, as long as the game goes till 1 a.m. tonight, I think the good guys are going to be good to go.
I don't think LSU is going to be playing at 1 a.m., but I do think Rhode Island and Dallas Baptist are going to be playing near 1 a.m. That's the way this radar is looking, and that is why Jay Johnson decided to play the early game, because he doesn't want to do that. So, but I agree. Tigers are pretty good late at night, and guess what? Sunday's first pitch is scheduled for 8 o'clock. We hope LSU is in that game, and that one could be pretty late, so we'll see how this thing shakes out. I want to talk a little bit about this point in the calendar, Preston. It's time to, one, get the players into summer workouts, but two, the staff very much involved in recruiting and trying to take the next 2 months to get your class as locked up as you can before their season starts and you get signatures in December. How do you feel like this class right now looks on paper?
Well, the class is very star-studded right now, but it needs to fill up with some volume. They need to get their pieces, and there's a couple what ifs right now, like Blaine Bradford, the number one safety in the country out of Catholic High, is currently committed to Ohio State, which it doesn't matter what, that's not going to sit well with fans at any point. So they're going to have to do some work to work on things like that. But official visits are starting this weekend, actually. In fact, guys like Deuce Gerald's going to be on campus. We're talking about top 100 guy out of Georgia is here, and there's a few other guys to keep an eye on for sure. Zayden Crimplin and whatnot. So definitely now is the time where recruiting is going to pick up heavy for this staff.
Do you expect some flurry is probably a heavy word, multiple commitments in the next 2 or 3 weeks to this class of 2026?
Yeah, I think the way you phrased it, multiple, but not a flurry. We're not going. I don't think we see like a dozen people here in the next 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That'd be just wild. But I mean, we're talking about the class is going to be 90% put together by the end of summer. Okay, we're going to look up July 31st, and we're probably going to see, probably 20, if not more, people committed, and they're sitting at 9 right now. So I definitely think that we're due for a big boom in recruiting here shortly.
Let's talk about some of the guys in this class. Tristan Keys is the number 1 wide receiver in the country, depending on where you look. He's a 5-star across the board, top 5 player in the country by the composite. Out of Hattiesburg, how do you feel about the strength of that commitment as we sit here today?
I mean, he is still taking official visits. That's one thing to keep in mind. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to Miami this weekend. Okay. And of course, Miami's someone who's scary because they've been known to throw big money at players. A lot of times at players, they might not think deserve it. Look at Carson Beck, look at the receiver who LSU brought in last year. Was it CJ Daniels, whatever? It's just scary to deal with Miami in the portal because they're a little sporadic with the guys they bring in and the money they throw sometimes. That being said, what makes me more nervous than the official visit, because frankly, if you're a 17-year-old kid with an opportunity to travel the country and look at all the elite programs, you're pretty dumb not to take those free opportunities. What scares me more than that is straight up the fact that he's from Mississippi. Mississippi and LSU recruiting has just been weird. I really don't have any other way how to put it other than weird for the last seemingly 25 years with, the kids they get and the kids they don't get. And especially on signing day, it's been weird vibes out of Mississippi. So that is what would make me nervous with Tristan Keys. That being said, we're talking about a top 5 player nationally, number 1 receiver in the country. You need to do everything you can do to get him to be on campus.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're about to have, a lot of guys moving on from this team that will be out of eligibility or moving on to the NFL after this year. So potentially some significant playing time to be had in his first year on campus. Looking at the in-state guys like Louisiana, you mentioned Blaine Bradford that's committed to Ohio State. How do you feel about Lamar Brown, big-time offense, defensive lineman, however you want to term it, from U High down the street?
Yeah, Lamar is a kid who has been on LSU's radar for a very, very long time. Of course, he's at U High. And he's a kid, every time I talk to him, especially this talk has ramped up a lot, watching Travis Hunter win the Heisman playing both sides of the ball. He wants to play offensive line and defensive line at college. Now, I do know this relationship with LSU's had its ups, had its downs, but the most recently I've heard from him is LSU still on top, despite it all. So I think LSU stands in a good spot. Obviously, that's a kid you need to bring in, particularly if he's right. And he is a two-way player. Talking about if you could get an elite offensive and defensive lineman, I mean, my goodness, that's unheard of. So, essentially, 2 positions in the trenches would be filled by one guy. Now, whether or not he's actually good enough to do it or has the endurance to pull that off, we'll see. Particularly defensive line tends to be a position that even if you're a starter, you're not on the field every down, So we'll see how that turns out. But I think LSU's in a good shape, but you got to be nervous with a kid like him simply because he's so highly touted. He's been on so many people's boards for so long. Every defensive line and coach in the country and offensive line coach in the country, wants a piece of that, and money's going to become flowing. So, there's a reason why, despite being literally on LSU's campus every day, and LSU's had an offer into him for probably 3 years now, that he hasn't pulled the trigger on that yet. He's certainly waiting.
We've seen like not Ross Dellinger. Wilson Alexander wrote a great piece at The Advocate talking about LSU's roster building strategy with Austin Thomas and Brian Kelly and visiting the Seahawks and putting together a salary cap and understanding what you have to do with high school, what you got to do with college, and then how you allocate funds to each position. But as you look at the way LSU has approached roster building on the whole, how do you feel about it?
Pretty good. I mean, I like the roster that they've built this year. And I like that they're not willing to overpay for a kid. I think what Jakeem Stewart got out of USC a year ago and the concerns that I was hearing, I think that was a good way to handle that. I don't think you need to empty out your reserve for a guy. I mean, I think he's played either less than 15 high school football games, and he's signing for, $2 million or more to go to USC. It's a little concerning. I like that they're here's let me put it like this. A year ago, you whiffed on all these players asking for big money, and we heard that same excuse. But at the end of the day, you didn't have a roster that was talented enough to compete. Okay. This year, I think they have a roster that's talented enough to compete for national, nationally on that big scale. But you're still hearing a little bit of that. Bryce Underwood, we are not going to overpay for him. Jakeem Stewart, we're not going to overpay for him. But then look at the guys you are getting. Look at who you did bring in. I mean, there's tons of talent that they were able to bring in both in the portal and the recruiting class. So it's not like, they're just bringing in nobody. So yes, I like what they're doing with the money that they have. And I think their money this year is just under triple the money that they had last year to work with. So I think from everybody I've heard, Austin Thomas is one of the best in the business in terms of both generating money and using it well. So as far as my information goes, which I don't have everything here, but as far as I'm aware, I think they are doing a good job.
It's the name of the game. You got to get the guys in, and then you can coach them, try to win some football games. LSU appears to have done a pretty good job with that. We'll see as of Labor Day weekend in 2025. Preston, we appreciate some time. We'll talk again next week. Thanks, man.
All right, see you then. Enjoy your games tonight.
We sure will. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. All your team coverage, recruiting coverage as well. They got you covered over at TigerBait.com. It's gone final in Conway, South Carolina, East Carolina 11, Florida 5. It was an early and often onslaught from the East Carolina offense. They chased Liam Peterson, the Florida ace, out of that game in the second inning and really controlled it start to finish, quite literally. So East Carolina moving on to the winner's bracket. Coastal will try to get there. Florida's got to go win 1, 2, 3, 4. They got to win 5 in a row. Is that right? They got to win Saturday morning, Sunday night, and Monday. They got to win 4 in a row. Florida does. So daunting task for the Gators. We'll get you caught up on the rest of the scores around the country, including in Clemson, South Carolina. And if we have any update on LSU and a potential start time, we'll do that as well. 30 minutes left to go here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? Complimentary, that means free. It's nice to get like complimentary nuts at the bar, maybe a complimentary bottle of water when you go somewhere, but not a lot of stuff complimentary these days. 3 years of complimentary maintenance, that's pretty good perk if you're a Genesis driver. And I'll one-up it. 3 years of complimentary maintenance, that is valet, meaning they're going to come get your car, bring it to the service aisle, handle all those issues, whether it's the oil change, wiper fluid, change the wipers, air filter, whatever. They'll get it done. They'll bring it right back to you. And with that loaner, you don't have to miss a beat with work, getting the kids wherever they need to go. It's all part of being a Genesis driver. Go see my friends at Airline near Piku, across from Women's Hospital, and just have a discussion with them. You've probably never been over there. You've probably never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. Most haven't. They're fairly new to the game. It's a luxury brand of vehicle at a reasonable price, and the experience from buying to driving to service to your relationship with the dealership is going to be second to none. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Go check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Want to feed the family? Check out the big haul there. A lot of awesome jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish. If you want to feed a tailgate party this weekend at the Box, Corks can cover you there. If you're just looking to go grab a late lunch or some food on the way home from the work week on a Friday, Corks is an awesome option. It is truly great fried catfish and fried shrimp. If you're one of those folks who goes, I'm from South Louisiana, I'm not getting my fried seafood in a drive-thru. I'm just not doing it. Just try it once. I promise you, you will think it is awesome. Get the Cork sauce. Beignet bites, also quite good for the dessert. All right, let's go check out the scoreboard here. As I mentioned, East Carolina has finished off Florida 11-6, their final there from Conway. East Carolina moves on to the winner's bracket, where they'll probably play Coastal tomorrow. Cincinnati and Wake Forest play in the 7th inning. Cincinnati leads Wake Forest 10-5 in Knoxville. The winner probably gets Tennessee. Wake threw its ace. Best pitcher they had to give 8 runs in 2 innings. Cincinnati just lit him up. Cincinnati, big on stealing bases. And if they get Tennessee tomorrow and Marcus Phillips, they're going to be running if they can get on base. Now, easier said than done, getting on base against Marcus Phillips. But if you do, you can run, and Cincinnati certainly will. Louisville is playing in Nashville against East Tennessee State. They lead 4-2 right now in the bottom of the 4th inning. And I'm noticing that the 1 seeds are not really asserting themselves offensively. Texas is only up 2-1 on Houston Christian in the bottom of the 4th inning. Florida State just up 1-0 on Bethune-Cookman in the top of the 2nd. Arkansas is in a 1-1 game in the 2nd inning against North Dakota State. So even North Carolina, who's won their game, that game's gone final, they only won 4-0 against Holy Cross. And you look at that, and it's just a little bit more ammunition to go with one of your better guys. And I still don't believe that LSU should have thrown Paul Skeens against Tulane. But if you bring it to this current LSU team, I just don't think it's the best idea to just go bullpen it when you've got 2 aces like LSU does. I think your best idea is to take control of those first 2 games. So a lot of the talk all week long has been he's going to go with Cade Anderson. I'm not going to rule out Anthony Ianson at all in this game on Friday. I think there is a reasonable chance that Jay Johnson did what he did in Hoover last week to give himself options. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Cade Anderson. It would not surprise me at all to see Anthony Ianson. But I think in either event, you give yourself a big advantage in both games because you've got those guys pitching as well as they are. As far as the bullpen guys, here's your hope today if you're LSU. Whenever they play, you give the ball to Anderson, you give the ball to Ianson, one of those 2, and if you can get 7 innings, which is a lot to ask, but they've done that a lot. If you can give 7 innings, at that point you can read and react to the game. And if it's time to go with DJ Primo, and it's time to go with Connor Benj, and it's time to go with William Schmidt because it's 13-1, do it. If it's 3-1 or 5-4, and you need to go with Zach Callender, Case, and Evans, awesome. You do what you have to do to win the game. What I'm ruling out today, this is what I'm ruling out, and I said this exact same thing in this exact chair 2 years ago when I was in this chair and found out Paul Skeens was pitching against Tulane. You are not throwing one of your aces with the intent that you're going to get up 8-0 in the 3rd and pull them so they can come back Monday. When you put one of your dudes on the mound on Friday of a regional, his job is to take the baseball as long as he can take it. And no 5-0 after 1 or 8-0 after 3 is a pull the rope deal so you can burn up your bullpen. Because you have to walk too fine a line between, okay, just hypothetically, it's 8-0 in the 4th. Let's play this around. It's 8-0 in the 4th. And you want to go to William Schmidt, who I think's got a brilliant career, and I think next year is probably pitching on Saturday, the regional in the Box. But he's had issues in SEC games when the lights get really bright, throwing the ball over the plate. So you yank your starter to bring him back on Monday maybe because it's 8-0 in the 4th. And he's thrown 48 pitches. And you go to Schmidt. And then he walks guy and hits the guy, and then a guy bloops in a double, and then he throws a wild pitch, and then the guy hits a 3-run homer, and now it's 8-4. And now you got to send Cowan down to the bullpen, or Evans down to the bullpen, or Shores down to the bullpen, just because you've got an insurance policy for Monday. No. When you decide on Friday that Skeens is pitching, he's going 125 pitches complete game, and he did. When you decide that Ianson or Anderson is pitching today, they are taking that baton until you've got to take it from them. And so if LSU scores 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and it's 5-0, which I'd be thrilled with, don't immediately look at your TV or sit at the box in the beer stand and go, hey, can we maybe get Primo up here? No, you can't. You give Ianson the baseball, you give Anderson the baseball, and you go. So that's what I anticipate LSU doing. If you missed the top of the show, this was priceless material from Michael Cobble. We called Cobble to get an update from the box. Is the tarp on the field? Are they warming up? Who's making these calls? Is Little Rock still there? Are they going back to the hotel? Like, what's the deal? And we got all that information from him. And the other piece of information we got is he went down to the field because they got to shoot, for the news, they got to shoot them pulling the tarp and whatever. And he saw that LSU's lineup was posted in the dugout. So he could see 1 through 9. And then the 10th line is the starting pitcher. And it was filled out, but there was tape over it. And at this point, I think there are probably some LSU fans who are like, God, so annoying. And I just giggle. I giggle, honestly. Because this is the way it's going to be until Jay Johnson takes his cap off and then vacates the office. Because he is going to hide that starting pitcher as long as he possibly can, which is why first pitch was scheduled for 40 minutes ago, and the game was delayed 1 hour before it started, and we still don't have an announcement of a starting pitcher. So the way this is going to work, as far as the starter goes, is they will announce at some point in the next probably hour and a half when the start time is, and then 30 minutes after that, LSU will tweet out its lineup. Now, maybe, because I've been in the press box, this is information that you don't necessarily have if you've never been in the press box. Bill Franquez does get the lineups from the 2 coaches, and he prints them out, and he puts them in the press box where all the press can go grab one, so you've got it to keep score, whatever you're doing. And maybe before LSU baseball tweets it out, the press gets it, and Koki usually takes a picture of it, or whatever the case may be. But that's when you'll get the starting pitcher. I believe it to be Ianson or Anderson, but I will sit here right now and I'll tell you that Jay works very methodically. He has a reason for everything, and he did not throw those 2 guys on Friday without giving himself options for today. And so to just open my mind, I'm going, okay, he gave himself options to give himself options. I believe Ianson is an option in this game tonight. We'll see what he decides to go with. I am, as I sit here today, very comfortable with both of those guys in this game on Friday, and I'm very comfortable with both of them in the game on Saturday. I don't feel like there's an ace to be afraid of here or there, like we talk all the time about when Ben Sheets and ULM came to Baton Rouge in the 90s and you had to go throw your ace, so they had to throw Coogan in that game. I don't feel like this is a situation like North Carolina dealt with today, where Kyson Witherspoon's potentially waiting on the other side. I don't feel like that's a big issue in this one. So I'm good with going ahead and throwing either one of them. I will tell you that there are some things blowing up on my phone right now that suggest a new start time. It's coming pretty quickly, relatively speaking. I'm not going to blow this thing open right now. I'm really not trying to play coy. It's going to be in a couple of hours. If we find out over the next 15 minutes, which I think an announcement from LSU may come in the next 15 minutes, I will go ahead and tell you that. I will promise you this as well. We do broadcast the games on Eagle 98.1. Eagle has to know when they need to hit pregame, so they're in constant communication. So we will find out pretty quickly. And that can be public information. It's when we need to put the pregame show on. So we'll let you know. If I don't know in the next 18 minutes, Matt is at walk-ons for his show, and Matt will let you know as quickly as we do find out. So if you're looking for updates and you're driving and you don't want to refresh Twitter all the time, if you listen to us for the next 35, 40 minutes, you're going to get an updated start time. I can promise that's coming. So I promise I'm not playing coy, but I am trying to give you information. We will have it in the next 30 minutes, a start time. It has not been announced yet, and it hasn't been officialized yet, but we'll get it here pretty quickly. Southern Cal jumps out to a 1-0 lead on TCU up in Corvallis. Arkansas and North Dakota State tied at 2 in the second inning. I'm not sure. Oh, Arkansas went to their bullpen guy. They're saving Zach Root and Gage Wood for the rest of the regional, and that hadn't gone awesome in the first 2 innings. But you got to figure that Arkansas's bats are going to wake up and they'll pull away from that one. The one that it does involve LSU at this point, they're underway in Clemson. The 2-3 game between the second seed West Virginia and the third seed Kentucky is in the bottom of the third inning. That game is scoreless to this point. Kentucky did throw its ace today, who's been throwing on Sundays to give them an advantage on Sundays because he's not as good as the SEC aces, but he's their best arm. He's pitching today against West Virginia. So I'll keep you updated on that over the next 17 minutes while we're still here with you. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We'll step aside, come back and close things out. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Look, storm season is around the corner. There's always another one around the corner here in South Louisiana. Do you need someone to look at your insurance policy and make sure that your property policy reads properly? Do you know what your co-insurance penalty is? Do you even know what co-insurance is? A lot of business owners don't. Not part of your general day at the office. But if you're underinsured and you have a loss, you could pay penalties. Do you know what your business interruption limit is? If you can't go into work, can't produce, is insurance going to pay for that? Well, that's all part of a good property policy. And if you just looked at the premium or just took what your broker handed you at your last renewal, you might want another set of eyeballs on that. And Jonathan Carvo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group are happy to do it as storm season is upon us. So contact them at HighlandIG.com. Tell them you heard about them on the Hunt Palmer Show. Hey, I'd really like somebody to check my property policy, make sure everything is in order. They're technical experts, and they have dozens of markets that can help you place the policy with the right market at the right price as storm season approaches. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
All right, shout out to Corks. Shout out Michael Cobble, WBRZ. Shout out Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. Shout out Luke Johnson from The Advocate, all for jumping aboard, giving us a little bit of time here on this Friday. I got some predictions. I didn't have this planned for today because I thought LSU would already be playing in the regional, but I'll give you some predictions for the regional if you're interested at this point. One, I think Jared Jones hits 2 homers. I gave you this South Carolina. When he faces mediocre pitching, and he will see some mediocre pitching this weekend, he hits it a long way. He does it every Tuesday, and he's going to do it when you play Little Rock and when you get to a Sunday, when you get to potentially a Monday. I got Jared Jones hitting the ball over the wall at least 2 times this weekend. I think Derek Curiel is going to hit the ball hard this weekend. I think he's going to be a positive impact on LSU. I think on the pitching side, Jaden Newt is going to play a big role this weekend. I fully expect Anthony Ianson and Cade Anderson to start the first 2 games for LSU. And I fully expect, should LSU play close games, that Zach Cowan and Kason Evans are going to have to be called on here. And I think Jay is more comfortable now with Jaden Newt starting a game, whether that's Sunday night in the regional championship or Monday in a win or your season's over game, maybe even a Sunday morning game if you've lost a game, than he is Chase Shores. I think Shores has cemented himself in the bullpen as a guy that I think you're going to get the same amount of length from both of them. I think both of those guys are 65 pitch guys at their max. But I think Newt at the front end of a game. And I feel really good about Jaden Newt taking the ball at the front end of a game. I think that he got some seasoning in the midweek games. And I think you saw it blossom in a full stadium in Hoover against a good team, a good lineup in Ole Miss that hits the long ball. Will Furness got him once, but he struck out 7. And that was the perfect audition to come to the box in a more friendly crowd, even though that one was very friendly, against a lesser lineup, very likely, to go. So I think that those 3 guys, I love Jared Jones, I love Derek Curiel, I love Jaden Newt as guys who are going to be big this weekend. Let me make sure this is official. I believe I've got it. John Eads, WAFB. And we don't have it from LSU, but I feel comfortable putting this out there since John Eads has. I think you can expect LSU and Little Rock to start very quickly after 5 o'clock. We're a few minutes before 3 o'clock right now, 2:51. So LSU and Little Rock should start 5:05-ish at the box. So you can text your friends. That's going to be coming up here very shortly. The official announcement from LSU should be coming. But I had heard that's coming from, look, I have media friends in the press box. I don't think that's a huge secret. There's some chatter that goes on up there. I don't think it's, but I didn't want to say anything that was going to be wrong. Okay? I'm getting text while I'm on the air. That's the text I got. It's coming now on Twitter. Folks are comfortable talking about it. I'm clearly not at the box, but if you're headed that way, 5:05 is when it looks like the first pitch is going to be. So good for Moscona. AFR is going to have a pretty captive audience there at walk-ons for the next few minutes. But if you just extrapolate that out, baseball can be weird. You know that timing can be awkward. But if LSU and Little Rock start at 5 o'clock, then you're going to have that go until 8:30. You're looking at a 9:15 first pitch for Rhode Island and Dallas Baptist. And that is, candidly, why you schedule the first game. You build in a buffer for your team to get on the field, get off the field, and get in bed. And the loser of that game tonight between Rhode Island and Dallas Baptist is going to have to come back on minimal sleep and play a 1 o'clock game tomorrow. And the winner of that game is not going to get in bed until, 2 o'clock in the morning? So it's not by design that you make it rain and force them into bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it is by design that you're first and you get to go and play as quickly as you can. I'm not a weather guy. Y'all know that. I feel like the forecast for the next 3 days is really good. So hopefully this is now in the rearview mirror. Hopefully we can start this thing up at 5:05, and hopefully LSU puts the thing to bed at an 8 o'clock game on Sunday. I gave you why I have so much confidence earlier in the show. I just feel like LSU's 1-2 is going to be really tough for these two teams to handle. And then I think they've got enough quality arms on the back end to make that train go. So I like LSU this weekend. I like the draw. And I'm curious to see exactly what that lineup is when it comes out here in a couple of hours. I told you in the last segment, don't be stunned if it's not Cade Anderson. It could be Anthony Hines. And I'd be stunned if it was Jaden Newt or Chase Shores or somebody like that. But I think that there are reasons Jay Johnson gave himself some options last Friday when he put both those guys in the game. And just deducing that in my head, I'm thinking there's a decent chance he's going to go ahead and make that flip. So we'll see. I like either one of them on the mound, as I've said plenty of times. So tons of baseball over this weekend. I will be in absolute heaven. And hey, I get to go to the box and see the first pitch now, which was not going to be the case when my show was 1 to 3 and they were going to start at 2 o'clock. I got some heat from the folks in the Bayou Ford chat for wearing Little Rock colors. Apparently, I'm in red. I'll be honest.
You supporter of the Trojans?
Here's what happened. Dead honest. Close to the pin last week at the golf tournament, won a new belt.
So you had to match the belt?
The belt has some red accents and it's navy.
Okay.
So we wanted to wear something that kind of went with the belt.
That's understandable.
So that's what I went with. I like the belt. It's got the whole Southern Trace golf course on it, including the clubhouse. It's nice. I earned it with an incredible pitching wedge shot, and I wanted to wear it today, so I did.
Well, how did you finish in the tournament though overall?
Well, we talked about that. I don't think it needs to be rehashed.
Okay, I couldn't remember if we talked about it. I just wanted to make sure we mentioned it.
We did. 11th out of a 12-team flight.
Yeah.
So not great performance, but a lot of fun was had, and there were some beverages involved, so that was great. But I do have the opportunity to go home and change if I want to out of the Little Rock colors. Probably not. Probably just going to go to the box and watch baseball.
Why is every team in Arkansas red? It's unoriginal as hell. That's not even on you.
State's
I just
got
realized
red.
that. Nope.
Central Arkansas is purple. So
That's true. But it's basically red. It's red and blue combined.
In Pine Bluff, black and gold. But yeah, you've got some Little Rock. You've got Arkansas State. You got a lot of red working in the natural state. That's right.
There you go.
We're done. Matt's going to have some fun today. He's going to drive you home or to the box or wherever from over at Walk-Ons. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. Hopefully, when we're back on the mic on Monday, the Tigers have moved on to the Super. Maybe we've got a pregame show for a night Monday game. Either way, hope you'll have a great weekend. We're back tomorrow. Monday.
The Hunt Palmer Show.